Today you will be educated about organ, eye, and tissue donation, and you will be inspired by stories of triumph and stories of loss. And you will be encouraged to talk about donation with a loved one, because the conversation matters. Please welcome to the podium, Sydney Brooks.
Saving Sight serves physicians in our local area, across the United States, and around the world in a partnership to restore vision. They provide the highest quality of care with impeccable service so physicians can focus on what matters most, restoring vision for their patients. From Saving Sight, please welcome Kelly and Darcy.
Good morning. Thank you for having us. My name is Kelly Falwell.
I'm Darcy Ross. We work with Saving Sight as hospital development managers for the area, and it's our job to educate our hospitals and external partners about the importance of eye and tissue donation.
So first we'll start with our mission and vision. We span across the state of Kansas, across the state of Missouri, and the western half of Illinois, and we serve the vision to be the global partnership model for how eye banking and charitable business services can most effectively serve people and communities. And we do this by going into hospitals to educate nursing staff, we go into colleges and educate people who want to be nurses one day. And we also educate in hospitals on ventilated protocols. So that looks like helping take care of patients who are ventilated so that their vision doesn't get damaged while they're on a ventilator. Another thing our organization does is we make autologous serum eye drops, which patients that experience extreme dry eye. They have their blood drawn, they send it in, and we create eye drops that help them with their dry eye, so maybe they won't need a cornea transplant. Next slide. So it's really important to us to talk to you today about the Uniform Anatomical Gift Act. So what this looks like, this is when you make a decision at the Driver's License Bureau, or when you go to the website to register to be a donor, that is part of the Uniform Anatomical Gift Act. So in the event that something happens to someone, a hospital will call in the fact that the person is experiencing a GCS of 5 or less, so that's the Glasgow Coma scale. That means that they have lost brain function and there is concern for brain death. Or when a patient dies within 60 minutes, that hospital must also call the Organ Procurement Organization, and then we check the donor registry to see if you've made this decision for yourself. So the reason we check is because this conversation looks different. If you've made this decision for yourself, we're going to tell your family. We hope you've already spoken to your family yourself. But we're going to tell your family, and it's going to make it easier for them because this is the worst time of their life. They're experiencing a great loss. And now they know that they're honoring a wish that you made. If you're not registered, we will ask your family for authorization to see if it is a good decision for your family and moving forward. So who can donate? You can donate your corneas anywhere from the age of 2 through 80. And again, we want to make sure that if you do make the decision to register to be a donor, have that conversation with your family so that they're not hearing it from us first. And I'll hand it over to Darcy to talk about impact.
All right, so I'm actually going to make you guys interact with me a little bit. I'm going to have everybody close their eyes for me real quick. And I want you to think really hard about the things you love to do. It could be your favorite subject in school. It could be the sports or extracurriculars you do after school. It could be your hobbies. I love to read. I love to paint. I love to go on hikes with my dog. So with your eyes closed, think about all those things. Now think about how those activities would be impacted if you woke up tomorrow unable to see. I know that for me, hiking would become a little more treacherous. Reading, I would have to learn Braille, an entirely new language. There are so many people every single day that deal with vision loss from either a genetic disease or injury. You can open your eyes. So this is why I'm extremely passionate about the educating that I do and talking with people about eye donation, because we talk a lot about organ donation, and that's great because it is life-saving. But getting a tissue or eye transplant, that is life-saving too. It is quality of life-saving. So this is just a look at our impact report from last year. We gave 11 people the gift of sight every single day. So I wanted you guys to understand a little bit more about what we do and the kind of tissue we recover. So I think we talk about eye donation, people just think we pluck the whole eye out and put it into somebody else, but that's not how that works. If you're in need of a corneal transplant, then we are just recovering the cornea. We're also recovering the sclera, which is the white outer protective tissue in the eye, and that's used in reconstructive surgery if you've had a globe puncture or something like that, or for glaucoma shunting. And then we also recover lenses, which kind of sit in the anterior chamber of your eye, and they help the light refract in and out. It's what kind of focuses that light. Everyone in their life ends up needing a lens replacement at some point because your lens is what develops cataracts. Maybe you've had a parent or grandparent that's developed cataracts and needed surgery. So we never transplant lenses since everyone develops cataracts and that lens ages and becomes opaque with time. So when we recover lenses, it's for research and training purposes. And I think that when we recover tissue that's used for transplant versus when we recover tissue for research and training purposes, that people think, oh, that's second tier donation because we're not actually giving anyone the gift of sight. But I hold a very special place in my heart for research and training tissue and the importance of it. When I first started at Saving Sight, it was my job to manipulate the tissue in the lab. So when we recover tissue, it's the lab's job to manipulate that tissue and cut a specific graft for our surgical partners so that they can go in there and give the gift of sight. And in order to get signed off on that procedure, I had to cut over 50 corneas just to get trained. And there was 10 other people that work in the lab with me that wouldn't be able to do their job without it. And in addition to that, we send tissue globally for to universities, to baby surgeons who are just learning how to become cornea docs, to provide people with that sight-saving transplant. This is a good example of the people who need a corneal transplant. I know that nobody likes my gross eye pictures, but I used to work as an ophthalmic technician. That's my background. I've been in ophthalmology for about 12 years. And keratoconus we would see very frequently as an issue, and that's right here, this picture where your cornea is shaped like a cone instead of a dome like it's supposed to. We talked earlier about light entering and exiting your eye, refracting out. So because the shape of your cornea is affected, it causes like quadruple vision, super blurry. You get a lot of glare, especially at night. So if someone has keratoconus, then that typically is treated with a solid contact lens. If anyone wears contacts, they know that those are already kind of uncomfortable sometimes, so a hard contact lens to shape your cornea is even more uncomfortable. So typically severe cases of keratoconus end up needing a corneal transplant. Another example is a deep scarring corneal ulcer. So this I'm really passionate about talking about, especially with younger people or individuals who maybe overwear their contacts. You sleep in them at night a lot or don't wash them properly or overwear them past the date if you wear monthlies or 2 weeklies or dailies and you overwear them, or if you use old makeup brushes and don't wash them regularly, or old mascara wands. All these things can get into your eye. Your cornea is like a little petri dish. All that bacteria can just sit there and fester, and it causes deep scarring, ulcerations, and infections. And if something like that happens, you will end up needing a corneal transplant. So that's just my little plug to remember to do all those things. Take your eye health seriously. It's such a small organ in your body, but the impact that it has on your everyday life is huge. So that care that you take of it is extremely important. And that's, I believe, all we have for you guys. Yeah, thanks so much for having us and listening to us.
Backed by popular demand, our next speaker is Dr. Matt Wilkinson. Dr. Wilkinson is a transplant surgeon at St. Luke's Health System and moved to Kansas City in 2019. He has a passion for transplants and a deep respect for organ donors and organ recipients. When operating on an organ donor or an organ recipient, Dr. Wilkinson makes a special time with the entire staff to show appreciation and acknowledgement of the life of the donor and the special gift that be received by the recipient. When he isn't working, he enjoys traveling with his husband Marco, taking care of his saltwater fish tank, and playing with his 3 cats, Tiger, Luna, and Gigi. After Dr. Wilkinson concludes, it will be time for a few questions. Please welcome Dr. Matt Wilkinson.
All right, good morning. Thank you for that very kind introduction. Since last year, we have picked up another cat, so now there are 4. But other than that, it's very nice to see you all this morning. I am a transplant surgeon at St. Luke's. I also am a hepatobiliary surgeon, which means I do surgeries on people's livers and their pancreases and their bile ducts if they have cancer or other concerns in those areas. So what I'd like to talk to you about first is how do you get to do kind of the job that I do. So let's take a look at the next slide. So I was born in 1983. I know for you guys in the front, that's probably a long time ago. You've never thought of people in the back. That might be more recent than you want to admit. We lived there for about 6 years, and then we moved to Connecticut for 2 years, and then we moved to South Carolina, which is where I grew up. I graduated high school in 2001, so that was in this century. And I did 4 years of undergrad at the University of South Carolina. So if you want to go to medical school, you have to do an undergraduate degree first, which is usually a 4-year degree, which is what I did. I then went to Texas, I moved to Dallas, and I actually started a combined program. So I went to school to an MD and a PhD. So an MD is a medical degree, which is what you want to do if you want to be a physician. A PhD is a research degree, and you can do combined programs. So I started there, I was there for 3 years, and then my PhD mentor moved to New York. So I moved to New York City and lived there for 4 years, finished both of those degrees, and then did my residency. So when you do medical school, you learn about all the different fields of medicine. You get to try everything: internal medicine, surgery, psychiatry, pediatrics. And then you make a decision about the kind of medicine you want to practice, and you do more specialized training in that field. And so for surgery, which is what I did, that's another 5 years. So I stayed at Mount Sinai for another 5 years and did general surgery. And transplant is a special field within that, so that's another 2 years of training afterwards, which I did at the hospital at the University of Pennsylvania. So if you've added that up, that's 18 years of training after I graduated from high school. Then I came here, and I've been here since 2019. I came here in December at the end of that year, and I've been working at St. Luke's since that time. Next slide. So they gave you the number already, but this is an important fact to know. How many people are waiting for a transplant? And this is just in the US. This is not worldwide. This is not if we looked everywhere that people get organ transplants. But in the US alone, there's about 100,000 people waiting for a transplant at any one time. What organ do you think, well, what organs can you transplant? First of all, call them out. What organs can you transplant? You've just heard about one, so that's easy. The liver, right? You can do a liver transplant. What else? Kidneys. Heart. Lungs. Pancreas, yep. You can do, and then they told you about tissue transplants, right? You just got heard about different things in eyes, things like that. Bones and connective tissues. Skin grafts, so all of those things can be transplanted. For solid organ transplants, which are the big organs, there's about 103,000 people waiting. Now, how many people do you think everybody gets a transplant? No, some people die before they get a transplant, right? In fact, if you had to start dialysis this year, so dialysis is the procedure you get if your kidneys don't work. That's where people have to go into a center, they get their blood taken out, the blood gets cleaned and gets put back into their body. If you start dialysis this year, everyone in this country that starts dialysis, how many of them do you think are going to be alive in 5 years? What percentage?
20%.
That'd be really low. It's about 50%. 50% of people will die 5 years after starting dialysis. So again, if you don't have an organ to give them, these people are going to die from their underlying diseases. And so that's the reason to do a transplant. How many people do you think die each day waiting for a transplant?
17.
17! Oh, look at that. That's good. You guys can read. I can read too. That's good. All right, perfect. If we look on the next slide, what we can see is what organs people are waiting for. And you can see kidney is by far the most common. Okay, so kidney is by far the most common transplant that we do in this country, and they're the most people waiting, about 90,000. And about 25,000 kidney transplants are done each year. It goes down after that. Liver is the next most common, followed by heart, lung, and then others. And under others, there's actually a lot of different things. That's going to include things that are more experimental at this point. They've actually proven that you can do uterus transplants. So for women that are either born without uterus or have problems with the uterus that want to have children, they've been able to transplant the uterus, and then they've actually been able to have children from that. Those are things like people who get face transplants. You know, so people, if they've had some bad, like a dog attack their face, they had some other damage to their face. So those are called visceral composite allografts. They're called VCAs. That's a very complicated name. But it basically just means other pieces of tissue that's not a solid organ. Go ahead to the next slide. So this is a picture in the operating room, and what you can see there, that's me on the left, and that's one of my mentors on the right. When we do this, all these connections are very small, because you can't just open the person up and throw the organ in and hope that it works okay. Super glue is not going to work very well for that. You have to reconnect all the blood vessels. And some of the organs, you have to take the old one out first. So when we do a liver transplant, the old liver has to be taken out first. So there's a whole operation before you put in the new liver. With a kidney transplant, you don't take the old kidneys out. You don't even put the new kidney in the same place. The kidney doesn't care where it is as long as it's connected to the right things. So what we wear on our faces to see those, you can see those glasses, they have little telescopes inside them. And those will expand your vision about 2.5 to 3.5 times depending on how big they are. So we're looking down these little tiny telescopes that we wear in order to be able to see these very, very fine connections that we're making. If you think about how like clothes are stitched together, the threads on your clothes, the sutures we're using are even smaller than that to sew the arteries and the veins back together. On the left, that is a picture of a human kidney that's ready to be implanted, basically. The kidney itself, you can see it looks sort of like a piece of chicken breast you might get in the grocery store. When the blood goes back into it, it'll turn bright pink. It's one of the coolest things you've ever seen. Within about 2 seconds, that thing, when the blood goes into it, is going to turn bright pink and start working. A picture of the humans on the left, you can see the kidneys that you're born with. If you feel for your bottom rib, you have 12 ribs, your bottom one, that's where your kidneys are that you were born with. Your bladder's down here. They connect all the way down, but we don't put the new kidney there. In fact, we don't take the old kidneys out. The new kidney actually gets put in the lower abdomen. You can do it on the right, you can do it on the left. If you really get confused, you can put the kidney in upside down. The kidney itself doesn't actually care. You connect it into the blood vessels that go into the leg. You put it on the side, so some of the blood can still go in the leg, some can go into the kidney. And then you connect the ureter tube. The ureter is the tube that carries urine from the kidney to the bladder. And sometimes, if it's a really good kidney, it'll start making urine and spitting urine out that tube before you can even plug it into the bladder. It'll start right away trying to make urine. The kidney doesn't care where it is. If it is blood supply, it's going to try to filter that blood. So that's what a kidney looks like. You could probably, if you open your hand, that's about the size of a human kidney. They're usually about 9 to 15 centimeters, depending on how big you are. Your kidneys weigh about 1 pound each, so you have 2 pounds. Your brain weighs about 3 pounds, but those 3 organs, 2 kidneys and a brain, get 50% of the blood that your heart puts out. So they're very, very important organs that you deal with. Your liver is a little different. So your liver is your biggest internal organ. It's bigger on the right side. When I draw pictures for patients, I tell them it's just a big triangle. That's all it is. It's that big brown triangle. Okay? It has some important functions, but that's all it is. To do a liver transplant, you have to take the old liver out first. So the first half of the operation is really just getting that liver freed up. And again, it's not a healthy liver. People get liver transplants because their livers get sick, and that could be because they drank too much, so alcoholic liver disease, because they got an infection, hepatitis. One of the most common reasons that we actually transplant nowadays is because people have what's called fatty liver. And having too much fat in your liver can actually make your liver scar and die. And that's the end stage of liver disease called cirrhosis. And that's when you have to talk about needing a transplant. So when you take the liver out, you put the new one in. So when I tell patients about it, I say it's sort of like changing an engine block. You have to, take the old one out, lift it out, and then put the new one in. It's a little more complicated than that, but the same. It's different with this one. This is called an orthotopic transplant because the organ goes in the same place. That's what a liver looks like. That's one that's about to be implanted. So you can see the right side of the liver is a little bit bigger than the left side. That's the normal color for a liver to look when it has blood in it. When the blood's not in it, it'll look a little bit brown. And that's a normal liver. You can see that it has smooth edges. Those edges are sharp. When livers get sick, they get kind of knobbly, they get scarred, and they get lumpy, bumpy on the surface. So that's what I do most of the day. Some new things that we're interested in is normally if someone becomes an organ donor and they donate their organs, we do a surgery to take those organs out, so I still do that surgery. So there's a surgery to take the organs out of the donor first, so that's another part of my job. And when you do that, you take the organs out of the donor and you put them on ice, because if you left them warm, they would start to degrade and break down before you could put them in the new person. And so that's putting them on ice is what we do for a period of time. They're now making machines where you can try and keep them warm the whole time, which hopefully should minimize how much damage is caused to them by making them cold and then warm. As you may have also read in the news, they're working on engineering organs. Two of the biggest issues in organ transplantation. Why don't we transplant everybody? Because there aren't enough organs, right? That's why people die on the waiting list. We don't have enough. And then if you get an organ from someone else, your immune system may attack it, right? Your immune system says, I wasn't born with that organ, and chooses to attack it. The medical word for that is rejection. Someone who gets an organ transplant has to take medicine every day for the rest of their life to prevent their immune system from attacking that organ, and that could put them at risk for other complications. But they're working now to engineer organs. So like taking a cell from your own cheek, turning it back into a stem cell, which is the cells that can turn into anything, and then make them turn into liver cells, or kidney cells, or the kind of cells you would need for an organ. If you did that, since the cells came from you, you wouldn't need to take immunosuppression, which would remove one of the largest barriers in transplantation. You may have also seen in the news, the University of Maryland has done 2 of them now, where they've taken hearts from a pig and put them in humans to see how they can work. They've basically taken some of the markers off the surface of the heart cells that say, I belong to a pig, not a human, so that the human's immune system doesn't attack it. And again, that would also alleviate some of the organ shortage, because you have the ability to source those organs or get them as opposed to having to take them from other people. You can do living donor transplants, right? So kidneys, you have 2 kidneys, you can donate 1 kidney if you're otherwise healthy and give it to someone. You have to undergo a surgery to do that. You can also actually take out a piece of someone's liver and use it, because the liver is the only organ that regenerates. So if you take out a liver, that piece of liver is going to grow to the right size in the person you put it in, but it's also going to grow back in the person you took it out of. So it's going to work for both. You can't do that with hearts and lungs, unfortunately. They don't regenerate. You can't take out a piece of them. You need all of those. The biggest thing I think that's important is, no matter what you choose to do in your life, be passionate about it. That's number one. I didn't know what I was going to do when I was at your age. I thought I might go into medicine, but I wasn't sure about that. I did my PhD in neuroscience. I thought I was going to be a psychiatrist. So that didn't work out very well. Just be passionate about whatever you choose to do. Don't do something because someone else tells you to. Do it because you enjoy it, because you like what you do. And then the other important thing to talk about at the beginning is be an eye, organ, and tissue donor. The best way for people to be able to get transplants, you never know if you're going to need a transplant until you need one. So being an organ donor, signing up to be an organ donor is an important thing. All right, well, it's nice to talk to you.
Dialysis is a machine that filters your blood when your kidneys no longer function. Some patients remain on dialysis for a long time, and some patients are on dialysis while they wait for a transplant. Our next speaker's kidneys began to fail while she was in high school. Every day after school, she was connected to the dialysis machine for 8 hours, but eventually she received a kidney transplant. Please welcome Kritisha.
During my freshman year in high school, I became deathly ill. I felt awful and did not know what was wrong with me. After being admitted to the hospital, they ran a lot of tests and I was diagnosed with lupus. Normally, our immune system fights infections and illnesses. It prevents you from getting sick, or if you do, it helps you get better. Together, they identify, attack, and destroy germs and other foreign substances. With lupus, the immune system makes mistakes and attacks part of the body. My body attacked my kidneys. I was diagnosed with end-stage renal disease. Because my kidneys did not work properly, I had to start dialysis. Dialysis is when you are connected to a machine that filters your blood because my kidneys could no longer perform their important task. I was tethered to the machine and could only walk about 25 feet until my treatment was finished. I did dialysis after school and on the weekend, 7 days a week for 8 hours daily. I faced many challenges. I missed a lot of school and school activities. It was hard being a normal 14-year-old. I took a lot of medications, managed high blood pressure, had many doctor's appointments, and was on a special diet that did not allow me to eat foods high in sodium or potassium. I did dialysis until I was in the 11th grade, and was told by my doctor that I had regained enough kidney function to stop dialysis. Although I was still sick, I was able to graduate from high school and college. My kidneys did pretty well for many years. Then I had to start dialysis again. So when I was 39 years old, I started dialysis for a second time. After doing dialysis for a year and a half, I received a phone call that changed my life forever. I would be receiving a kidney from a deceased donor. My wait for a kidney was over. I owed my life to a total stranger, who I now know as CJ. CJ was an 18-year-old young man who passed away from injuries he received in a car accident. I met CJ's family in 2021, and we have been very close. The photo on the left side of the screen is CJ, and on the right side of the screen is CJ's mother. CJ's kidney, whom I affectionately call Warrior, has caused my lupus to be in remission, and I feel great. I can work a full-time job, travel, and enjoy life. I am in good health, and my life has been changed forever because someone said yes to organ donation. Thank you.
Our next speaker is a liver transplant recipient. He is grateful every day for his donor and the support of his family before, during, and after his transplant. He now works for Unbound, an international nonprofit based in Kansas City. They focus on the needs of the marginalized and the vulnerable. Because of the organ donor who saved Ramiro's life, he now travels the world. Please welcome Ramiro.
Good morning. I wanted to extend my sincere gratitude to all of you for attending this event and for letting me share my story and the power of faith and the generosity of others that made my life what it is right now. I was born in Guatemala and came to the United States 41 years ago. Like many people in this country, I was living the American dream. Everything was going well. I got a house, I got a college degree. I thought I was invincible. Until one day, after years of complaining about abdominal pain, nausea, and other symptoms, with the advice of my primary care doctor, I decided to visit a hepatologist, which is a liver doctor. And that's when the story begins. After the initial consultation and a multitude of tests, the cardiologist, Dr. Smith, may he rest in peace, asked me to come to his office, and he said that I have what they call cryptogenic cirrhosis. That is when they don't know what caused. It was not alcohol. Most likely it was fatty liver, but they couldn't say that for sure. And that unless I have a liver transplant, I only have 11 to 12 months to live. However, he said, and this is, I always keep it on my memory, however, if you trust in my medical advice and follow all of the instructions, that he was going to help me to fight for my life on the darkest moments also of my life. And at the end, we were going to celebrate, him and I. He gave me and my family a hug and started to give me advice on all of the things that I needed to know and to be prepared to fight for my life. It was not until that moment that I realized about my mortality. What's going to happen to my family if I die? Fortunately, I had a lot of support from my family and friends. I got closer to God, and I was blessed by finding the help and support of the gift of life. They provide people like me who were waiting for a transplant hope. And it is so reassuring to see people who are going through the same, or were going through the same things that I was going, how these people survive transplants. And at the same time, I learned about the great things that the gift of life does on a day-to-day basis, and this was very precious for me and my family. 2 months after the first diagnosis of cirrhosis of the liver, the Dr. Smith called me to his office and told me that my health was getting worse. Now I needed to be admitted into the organ transplant list, and he also told me that if I had a bucket list to start to work on it right now. As an immigrant, I had no idea what your bucket list was, so I had to find that out. Once, after a couple of weeks of more and more tests and appointments, I was admitted into the University of Nebraska Medical Center organ transplant waiting list. Once again, Dr. Smith asked me to come again, and he told me that I was getting sicker and that if I didn't have a transplant, I only had 10 days to live. But there was a procedure, and I cannot remember the name, that could prolong my life for a couple of months, but the chances of success was 50%. So I had to take the risk, and I took it, and I was ready to have that procedure. On the night before that procedure, a deacon from the Prince of Peace parish in Olathe came to my house to give me the sacrament of the sick. And he asked me if I was mad or angry at God, to which I said no. How could I be angry at God when I have such a beautiful life? As an immigrant, I had the opportunity to live the American dream. I had a beautiful family. If anything, I should be thankful to God for the opportunity that He has given me. The deacon prayed, gave me communion, and left. After he left, I felt a sense of peace and happiness after the ceremony. But the most amazing thing is that 2 hours after I got the communion, I received a call from Nebraska Medical Center telling me that there was a liver waiting for me and that I needed to get in less than 2 hours to the hospital. And then the rest is history. I was blessed with a second chance to live and to take advantage of all of the beautiful things that on occasions, when we are healthy and young, we don't see or notice. I do not know who my organ donor was, but one day when I was at Nebraska Medical Center, I got their chart and I read that it was a lady who was 65 years old who died of aneurysm. I don't know her name, but I call her my angel, and she's always in my prayers and in my heart. And when I got the opportunity to travel, I tell Angel, let's go somewhere. I'm very grateful for this angel. I have been blessed to work at a place where we help children, youth, and elders from developing countries, and on some occasions, I had them travel around the world to share the story of hope. This transplant need is all over the world, and on occasions, there are places where they don't even have transplants on that country. Now, for those of you who speak Spanish, I want to share something. It's really hard to translate, so I'm not going to translate it, but me gustaría compartir una frase que dice, es tu reacción a la adversidad. Recuerde, es tu reacción a la adversidad, no la adversidad en sí misma, la que determina cómo se desarrollará la historia de tu vida. Media vez tengamos fe, determinación y optimismo, cualquier problema que la vida nos da, lo vamos a poder afrontar con fortaleza y paciencia. Recuerden que los problemas no son eternos y las heridas se curan. Y al final, nuestra familia y amigos nos ayudarán a salir de la oscuridad hacia la luz. I want to take advantage of this opportunity to thank Kim. Kim is somewhere there. Right here. Oh, Kim. and his family, his beautiful family, they are an inspiration. You guys have no idea, and all the staff from the Gift of Life, you guys have no idea how much we appreciate your help. My kids, who are older now, on occasions we think about those difficult times, and I remember when you guys came to my house, and were so helpful, and for that I want to thank you guys. We keep you in our hearts. My transplant experience is an example of the generosity of others, and is an example that the generosity of others is priceless. And I learned so many things about life, death, the future, family, and friends. I want to encourage everybody in this audience not to look too hard on yourselves. Give yourself a break. It's okay to make mistakes, but learn from those mistakes. Tell the people that you love them, I love you, often, because you don't know if there's going to be a next time. So it's better that all the loved ones know that you love them, because I know you love them. Give them a hug. And most important, please believe in yourselves. To conclude, I'm going to end with a quote from Lady Gaga. And that is, do not allow people to dim your shine because they're blinded. Tell them to put some sunglasses on. You guys are awesome. Thank you.
Now, anyone who quotes Lady Gaga, come on, everybody. He gets it. He totally gets it. Oh, gosh. Wow. Wow. When I was 11 months old, I received a life-saving liver transplant. I was born with underdeveloped bile ducts, which help drain the toxins from my body. I was given 2 years to live without a transplant. The picture on the screen was taken at Children's Mercy Hospital just 2 weeks after my transplant. I am pictured with my brother Cole, my mom, and my dad. I am alive today because of the little boy on the right side of the screen. So there's a band going on back here. It sounds great. Aaron Drake. Aaron Drake died from an allergic reaction while on a family vacation in Lake of the Ozarks. He was just 8 years old. Because of his family, they said yes to organ donation. I was able to graduate from high school, study abroad in London while in college, graduate from college with a degree in journalism, travel, and truly live a full life. I presently live in Kansas City and am the marketing strategist as well as an entertainer. I do that for freelance, full-time. And you may follow my journey at musicbyskippy.com on all social media platforms. And now on that note, I'm going to just step away from the podium and get my mic. Don't worry, I got you. My sound person, I'll cue you. I am going to be doing an original song for you right now, because I have come out with 40 songs in the last 2 years. My sweet little brain has had a creative cap on it, and I was ready to pull the plug. Now, I've got a little audience participation before we do this song. It's called Teen Arthritis. Now, you probably hear that and go, I don't feel stiff, and I'm 28, and I kind of do. So, by a show of hands, who here has a phone with a screen like this? Okay, raise them high. If you don't, that's all right too, hands down. How many of you work on some kind of laptop or computer daily? Raise your hand. Hands down. Thank you. Last question, and this is for all my people who love movies and TV shows. Who here loves to watch movies, TV shows, on some kind of monitor? You know what I mean? Like a big TV screen. Or you're sitting down, you're watching something. Okay, hands down. I have 2 rules as a performer. First rule is everything I sing or say about a song has to be 100% true, so that I feel like I'm genuinely telling a story and I'm connecting with people who are such engaged, wonderful listeners. And the second thing is somehow that story or song kind of has to help me get through something in life. And teen arthritis I wrote because I've noticed as a 28-year-old man, from the video games I've played, from all the work I've done on a laptop, the texting that I do for my job, etc., I already have stiffness in my thumbs as a 28-year-old man. So this song is all about recognizing that, coping with that, and encouraging all of you wonderful high school students to know it's okay to be bored. Please get off your phones, and sometimes a walk will actually do you some good. I give all of you teen arthritis. Five years old, Nintendo hopes, they did come true. I played every Mario through and through. Then came 10, did it again. Serotonin wins, felt so alive from screen pixel friends. I'd go outside every now and then, but I'd stay inside every night on the weekend. I felt connection, felt no rejection from them. From you. 15 years old, every square was dope. Those flashing lights became my addiction, became my respite, and then came life, and then the arts. I found my start off that glass, so I could pass any test. Girls 15 pens, I felt a lens from unsaved games. A scratched up disc, my temper's pot kept simmering on punch buttons with numb thumbs until it was gone. Still on, never gone. So you're 28, now you can't be fake. Now you can't wait on a text or a DM. Pinging you later, pose and pose. They're taking their toll. They got a hold on what you do. How you're gonna lose when you get old, unless you hold off on the scrolls, the electronic games, and how you make your gains. How much pain and stiff can you take? Go for a walk. Take a bath without your phone. It's okay to be bored. Thank you. I know. Look, and I get it. Who's this guy who looks like some kind of curly-headed piece of asparagus with a funky shirt on, telling you about that kind of thing? I just want you to know, to all of you, it's okay. I was in high school 10 years ago, but some things are still the same, whether I like to admit that or not. Now, my wonderful, beautiful friend Megan is going to come on stage with a handy-dandy little prop. Next, that's okay. You put it right there. That's great. I will use my mic. Can you imagine? Doing like a little puppet show behind her. Okay. Here we go. Next is lunch. This will take place in the gym, which is out in the back of the auditorium, across the bridge and down the stairs. When you enter the gym, look for your designated area. There are volunteers to assist you. If you are attending as a guest, you will be eating lunch in the area right outside of the doors of the auditorium. All the lunches are the same. During lunch, your school will create a text message about the importance of organ donation, and it cannot have more than 20 characters. You will write your message on a large Post-it note. Then, when you return after lunch, 2 students from each school will come to the stage and put their message on the large cell phone. 1 student will read the text message aloud. Once you have shared your text message, you will take it to the judges, which will be seated in the back of the auditorium. Our judges are members of the Gift of Life Youth Advisory Board. Those wonderful students who have been introducing the rest of you. Oh, here we go. You don't think we incentivized you to come up with something cool? Boy, you're wrong. With each student from the school with the winning text message will win a $5 gift card from Quick Trip. Yeah, I see those faces. I eat the hot dogs, I get the slushies. It's kind of nice. Okay, last thing before I dismiss you. I am also a professional beatboxer. Again, I don't look it, but you're about to hear I have been doing this for 18 years. So before you go to lunch, I'm going to beatbox for about a couple minutes, yeah? And you can take your phones out if you want to. Once I finish beatboxing, you are dismissed for lunch, and you will be back by 11:40. So, oh yeah, get out those phones if you want. I don't mind. Now, my name is Skippy, and you all are about to listen to music by Skippy. Yo, Skippy Skip! Hey, Mom and Dad, this one's for you for letting me beatbox at the dinner table. All right. How we doing, everybody? Bellies are full. We're breathing. I heard a woo! Yeah, it's good. It's always me in the crowd. We love it. It's 11:40. Let's get the show on the road. Welcome back from lunch. It is time to showcase your text messages. When I call your school's name, 2 students from that school will come onto the stage and place your text message on the cell phone. Then one of the students will read aloud what the text message says. After the message is read, take your school's text message to the judges that are seated in the back part of the auditorium up here. Our judges are the members of the Gift of Life Youth Advisory Board. Please wave in the back, our wonderful judging panel. Thank you, thank you. They're like, so great to be here. Love it. If you're interested in serving on the Gift of Life Youth Advisory Board, please talk to your teacher and they will be able to connect you to Gift of Life. Here we go. First school is Oak Park High School. Drum roll. Man, there is not gonna be no booing in this house, all right? We're all here for the same mission. Sons of guns. All right. My sweet friends who are walking up, what are your names? Aiden. Aiden? Yeah. And your name?
Cruz Lewis.
Aiden and Cruz? That sounds like some kind of sitcom. Nice. If you guys could please put this on the phone, we will see what you put on there. I'm now going to grab this poster once it's secured. And then could you just read me the message using this microphone right here?
This one?
Yeah.
Our message is, you kidding me? Donate a kidney.
Whoa! Thank you both very much. You want to grab this? Yeah, that'd be great. Oh, there you go. There it is. Take a look at that. Very nice. If you could grab this and then bring it back to the judges. Grab your poster board. Thank you very much. You got it. Very good. Okay, up next. Very nice, very nice. If you could bring that to the judges, that'd be great. Up next is Olathe Northwest High School. Come on to the stage. What are your names? Anastasia and Sophie. We love this. Please put your text on the phone. And if you could please read what is on the phone.
Our text says, be a giver, donate a liver.
We love it. Thank you very much. I'm going to grab your message. Bring it up to the judges. A little violent for my taste, but we're just going to keep moving. Coming up on next, we have Lee Summit High School. Lee Summit High School, come on up. Scattered applause. That's an interesting response. Who's my wonderful volunteer coming up? What? Oh, I thought you said Teddy. I was like, it's not Teddy. No, Kennedy? Cool. Kennedy and your name again? Deja. We love it. Put on the text. Read that aloud for me, Deja. You got it.
Give a chance, save a life.
Love it. Chance save a life. Very nice job. Do you want to grab this for me? Bring it on up to the judges. Very nice, folks. We have 2 more schools coming up. Next is North Kansas City High School. Yeah, I hear that. You want to give it a read for me, Latavia, whomever?
Our message is live on when you're gone.
Very nice. We'll do it one more time, nice and close in the mic.
Live on when you're gone.
Very good. Round of applause. You can bring this up to the judges in the back. That would be wonderful. Thank you very much, you guys. Appreciate it. Nice earrings, by the way. Don't change. They look great on you. All right. Last but certainly not least, our final school will be Fort Osage High School. Yeah. Oh, I see you. That was the way you should cheer, my friend. All right, who do we got? Who's coming?
My name is
Laurencia? And your name?
Ava.
Ava. We love Ava. That's great. Come on up here. Now, if one of you could read this off.
Our message is change a life, be a light. We got it? Yes.
Nice job. Okay, please take yours. Folks, one more round of applause for all the wonderful high schools. Don't ever forget that creativity comes in many characters. So, while the judges are deciding a winner, oh boy, got a nice little plot twist for all you here. All students and teachers, please stand. Thank you. If you have an X under your chair, please remain standing. The rest of you can sit down. Okay, folks, you have just won a $10 gift card to Target. We love it. We love it. We love to see it. Or Target, depending on how you view it. Target is my view. Okay, now, here we go. Now, only teachers and their assistants that came with their school, please stand. To reiterate, teachers and their students that came with their school, please stand. Okay. We thank you for bringing your students today, and we thank you for realizing the importance of education regarding organ, eye, and tissue donation. Each of you will receive a Gift of Life bottle opener, 2 koozies, and a butterfly pen as a token of our appreciation. Okay. Judges, how we doing back there? We solid? Okay, cool. We have one more little thing. Before the winner is announced, the teacher of the winning high school may pick up the Quick Trip gift cards at the check-in table in the back of the auditorium before you leave today. Please see D. Okay? Daniel Nelson from Kearney High School will announce the winner. Here we go, folks. Please give a round of applause to Daniel. He's coming. Oh, look at him. I don't have a pace like that anymore, and I'm only 28 years old. We love it. All right, we're done. Keep going. You're great, Daniel. Okay, Daniel, and without further ado.
All right. Drum roll, please.
Oh, yeah.
And the winner is Oak Park.
Very nice. Congratulations to Oak Park for their creative text message about organ and tissue donation. And so, without further ado, thank you all very much. If you want to exit the stage, I appreciate it. Y'all are great. We are now ready for our final speaker.
After more than 43 years of enjoying life as a wedding planner, this remarkable story is of one man's search for purpose in living his second life. After being in a car explosion and burned 40% of his body, his story is filled with courage, inspiration, and hope for both the individual that suffers catastrophic injury and the family that loves them. 1 year prior to the car explosion, his 18-year-old niece became an organ donor. He will share how her story and his story give him a greater meaning of organ and tissue donation. After he concludes, there will be time for a few questions. Please give a warm welcome to Michael Nolte.
Good afternoon, guys. I have to tell you, it's a joy to be here. I've had the opportunity to address the rally 2 or 3 times in the past 20 years that I've been eligible as an organ recipient to do so. Yeah, I hope you also know that the Gift of Life organization presents about 300 such presentations to high schools throughout the city. And as a result of that, we have a lot of people in Kansas City who know the importance of organ donation. My sharing with you this afternoon will be to tell you about my experiences on what I call both sides of the OR, meaning the operating room. One of the people that's not able to be here is my beloved niece, Micah, who was 18 years old, and she was named for me, very close. I have 3 daughters, and she is one of 4 children. Those cousins were almost raised as siblings, vacationing together, every holiday together. And just to tell you how quickly life can change would be that she graduated from her high school graduation in mid-Missouri, the small town I'm from, Chemours, Missouri. And a month later, in the middle of a Sunday afternoon, no drugs, alcohol, or rain involved, she was crossing the railroad tracks of an unguarded railroad crossing, kind of in the country a little bit, but there was no gates and no whistles and no lights. And a train came roaring around a bluff that was filled with trees that had not been cut back yet in the Union Pacific. And even though she stopped, she looked, she listened, the Jeep that she was in was run over. As a result of that, Micah was killed instantly and in the absolute peak of health. My wife and I live in Leawood, and she is a registered nurse who had worked previously at the University of Missouri Hospital in Columbia, Missouri, which is where I started my company in 1980. She knew nurses that were still there in that ICU, and as we were making the mad drive from Kansas City to Columbia, Missouri, to be with my sister, my parents, my other sister, my niece who was then dead, but I could not believe that, I heard Barbie say on the phone to the nursing staff, has anyone gone to talk to Michael's sister about organ donation? And I about wrecked the car, and I go, what are you doing talking about organ donation? You're only going to talk about organ donation if Michael were to die, and she's not going to die. So we're not going to talk about organ donation. Well, that was wishful thinking on my part and completely wrong. When I arrived at the hospital, she was on a ventilator, which is not life support. That simply allows the lungs to continue to breathe and inflate until decisions can be made as to what would happen with those 7 viable organs that her parents did make that decision to donate. Actually, her husband, my brother-in-law, stepped out into the bigger waiting room with gobs of people and with the other children, and I was in the smaller waiting room with the representative from what's called Midwest Organ Transplant Network, which is here in Kansas City, came and visited with my sister and me about how would this procedure happen and would my sister like to do that. It was the first time we had ever had a conversation in my family about organ donation. This happened 21 years ago. And one of the things that we were able to do was to pull up Micah's driver's license, and at that point, it could indicate that she had indeed intended to be an organ donor. That gave my sister sort of a peace of mind that this is what Micah would have wanted. However, that alone does not guarantee that you will be an organ donor, because your next of kin, her parents, could have overruled that, but they did not. As a result of Micah being so healthy, had never smoked, no drugs that I knew of, minimal drinking, if any, all of her organs were in pristine condition, and with sudden death, there had been no deterioration. And so I was the person who guided my sister through that gut-wrenching process of liver, yes, kidneys, yes, there's 2, pancreas, yes, heart, yes, I can't remember the other one, eyes, corneas, yes, skin, and I went, no. I can't imagine that. I can't, because of my ignorance of the process, I did not know what skin harvesting was going to be like. And I said, no, they're going to skin Micah alive. Well, Micah was already dead. And I didn't know what that was like. And I was the person who talked my sister out of donating, which is what is our largest organ, is our skin. Fast forward 11 months later, I'm taking my parents to grief counseling in Jefferson City. So that would be like 3.5 hours down, back up to Jefferson City for an hour back to the small town, driving back to Jefferson City. I would do that every day every week for 3 months. And we got through that process. And I was the person who became the liaison between my sister's family and the organ recipients. And we did receive letters and pictures of the people who had received her organs. One of them that touched my heart came to us on Micah's birthday, which was on December the 23rd. And we had got out of Kansas City to go to Big Cedar Lodge for Christmas. So it was something very non-traditional and different, so that we wouldn't just continue to miss her seat at the dining room table being filled. And we received because I told the folks at Midwest Organ Transplant Network, I said, if by any chance you get a letter at the holidays thanking the family for the gift of life, would you please fax it to Big Cedar Lodge? And lo and behold, they did. Micah's birthday, her 19th birthday, would have been December the 23rd, and a letter came that day. We celebrated her life. We had a candle from her altar there. There was her favorite birthday from her funeral altar. There was her favorite birthday cake, and we read the letter. And ironically, Micah was going to go to college to become an equine veterinarian, meaning she was going to work with horses, and she raised horses. And actually, when I created her funeral, as you mentioned, I've been in the wedding business, the event planning business now for 45 years. Transferring skills from planning a wedding to planning a funeral are really very much the same. And my sister asked me, she said, Mike, I need an extraordinary funeral for an extraordinary child. And one of the things that we did was we had a horse-drawn hearse that carried her body up to the hill in my small town where 5 generations of the Nolte family are buried. And the man who received her kidney was a man in Pennsylvania, 42 years old, who was a rodeo competition rider. He had 2 days left before he too would have died, and he had 2 little girls. And he sent a picture of himself on a horse that he was riding. How fitting was that, and what a God wink from God that Micah's kidney was again riding horses. 11 months go by, and I am then called to plan yet another funeral for a young woman who died in a town called Mexico, Missouri, which is north of Columbia, about an hour. And this lady had died at the age of 34 of a stroke. She had lived with us her senior year at Mizzou and was a nanny to our children. Her death was totally unexpected, and she died of complications of a disease called lupus. Her family asked if I would prepare her funeral for her. I had my Micah family funeral planning folder in my front seat as I'm going down I-70 on May the 22nd, 2003. And it's 7:50 in the morning. Again, no drugs, no alcohol, no cloudy weather, no rain. And I had pulled over on I-70 near the Higginsville, Missouri exit at what's called mile marker 47 for driving too long in the left-hand lane of I-70. It was a competition between 2 cops as to who could get the first ticket of the day and the most tickets of the day. And this young man pulled me over and told me to get out of my car and get into his car. It was a Ford Crown Victoria. And I'd love to tell you I've never been pulled over before, but I have. But I will tell you, though, that I've always been taught to respect the man with the big hat by my parents. And thus, when I'm told to get out of my car and to get into the Ford Crown Victoria, I did get out of the car and went into his car. It was warmish, the air conditioning was still running, neither of us had seatbelts on. And what happened at that point is he then softened my ticket to just a warning after he found out I was going to plan a funeral. I think perhaps he felt a little sorry for me. He said, I need to see your license. And I turned to him to hand him my license like this. And what was happening behind me now be the driver of a Ford 350 pickup truck. And a man named Paul is in this truck, and he's having an argument with his wife on his cell phone, and he throws the phone on the dashboard, knocking off his sunglasses. as he's driving in the left lane, so picture left lane, right lane shoulder on I-70, he leans over to get his sunglasses off of the floor, driving 70 miles an hour, and when he leans over, he swerves from the left lane to the right lane to the shoulder and clips right past the Ford Crown Victoria that I was sitting in. The trooper had just filled up the car 20 minutes earlier with 19 gallons of gas, and it was what's called an instant inferno. The car was fully engulfed in fire in 1.8 seconds. That's now. Boom. 1.8 seconds. And from the back bumper to the front fender, the temperature inside the car rose to be 2,500 degrees. To give you a sense of how hot is 2,500 degrees, in 9/11, when the World Trade Center was hit with the murderous airplanes, the jets, the steel beams of the World Trade Center started to melt at 2,000 degrees. Again, I repeat, the temperature inside the car was 2,500 degrees in 3 seconds. Two brave men from the Kansas City area, who were not riding together, did not know each other, one from Pleasant Hill, one from Liberty, Missouri. They were brave enough, among the 70 people who stood on the side of the highway watching the car burn, to risk their life to reach into the passenger window and pull my unconscious body out through the window. I had 15 seconds left, is what the accident reconstructionist said, before I too would have burned to death. The resulting complication to me was that I was burned over 40% of my life body with 3rd and 4th degree burns. What that degree of burning means is that 1st degree is like a sunburn, 2nd degree might be a blister, 3rd degree, if you're the 3rd layer of the epidermis, that means that's going to have to be grafted. And the 4th degree means it burns through the bone. Particularly in my right leg, where there was an air tunnel coming from the back windshield that had been broken out, the fire was like a blowtorch into this leg down here. I was airlifted off of I-70 and taken to the University of Missouri Hospital in Columbia, the same hospital where Micah had been 11 months earlier. So can you imagine the PTSD for my mom and dad, my sisters, my wife, my children, to come back to the same hospital? I'm told my father simply slid down the wall when he came into the hospital, knowing that he was going to have another member of his family die. However, the story turned differently for me. I was in a coma for 14 days. The doctor asked how long. He wanted to cut off both of my legs. They call it bilateral amputation because the burns were so deep in my legs. My wife, the RN, said, how long can we last? Because I want Michael to have a vote on this. I don't want him to wake up with no legs. And the doctor said 14 days before getting green would make it mandatory. I woke up on the 13th day and I voted to keep my legs, which then put me into a horrible recovery program that lasted almost 2 years. Now, the video that I'm about to show you is important because if I don't have this video to back up what I'm saying, you could think I'm just a smooth-talking city slicker wedding planner and you'd go, nah, that couldn't have happened. But it really did happen. And so for the miracles of modern medicine and phenomenal plastic surgery, I had 18 surgeries. I received 18 units of blood during that time. But more importantly, I received the organ that I needed to preserve my legs and preserve my life, and that was the gift of skin. It was the exact gift that I talked my sister out of giving from Micah. Oprah told me, Michael, that is your full circle moment. And so I am a tremendous advocate of the gift of skin, bone, tendons, because without that, I would not look like this. This ear was melted off, all the skin on my face was burned off, all of my scalp was burned off. The back of my hand, when I was handing him the license, this is burned down to the bone structure and then was webbed together. This would not bend for about 5 months. And this down here does not look pretty. I wear a special special makeup each day that covers up the burn scars, particularly here in my forehead and the left side of my head. Because in my business, kind of my up and the shoulders up is sort of my calling card, and I didn't want my appearance to be distracting to the brides and grooms that I was helping them through the life chapter moment of planning their wedding. So I'm very adapted now. They actually had classes for us from the burn unit for the male burn victims there to learn how to apply. They didn't call it makeup, they called it cover up. But down here you go, oh, that guy's been in a bad fire. So I'm going to share with you now the video to give you a sense of what was that day, what was that process like, and then we'll talk about what that process happened in the hospital.
Just pulled over a car, put the driver in his cruiser when they were hit from behind by a one-ton truck and trailer going more than 65 miles an hour. Their cruiser burst into flames, killing Newton.
Enough welcome home signs for nearly every side of the house as friends and relatives pile in for the afternoon. Their joy, emotion, and excitement could hardly be contained as the businessman immobilized for the last 2 months in a Columbia burn unit walked, as he'd wished all that time, to his front door, assuring his well-wishers with one lasting message.
I am home! Yay!
Would be to tell you that I was confined to be at home for over a full year as I came home in a wheelchair and then a walker and then a cane, and I wear special prosthetics in the bottom of my shoes to keep my balance. I had morphine in my pocket for about 4 years as a painkiller. I never got addicted to it, thank heaven. But the process in which skin is harvested and then how it is transferred to the burn victim, this is relevant to today as we're talking about the importance of organ donation. What I did not realize is when they would harvest skin, because I have to back up. Initially, they will harvest the skin that you saw in that one picture of my legs in the OR that had those yellow, look like cheese slices on the top of that. That's all grafted skin. That was all donor skin that somebody who had died before me had gifted. They put it in little saran wraps and they keep it in the fridge. And I don't know who they're from, but they pasteurize them to get out any bacteria. And then they patch them on the legs in different places and hope, just like sod going on your body, that it will take roots and that it will stay with it. Now, many times that did not happen. In fact, most of the time it did not happen. And those skin grafts that were about the size of a saltine cracker would then begin to rot. It became, the word was called necrotic. And then that piece of skin, I'd have to go back in to what they called the tank every other day to be debrided. And debriding is the process by which they tear off all of the skin in your body that is now burned beyond healing or now has started to rot. It is the highest level of pain the human body can withstand without losing your mind. And it was excruciating pain. The process of debridement lasted 2 hours and I was debrided 121 times. It was mental torture, but I had to have that done. But then eventually, they will then move from donor skin to what we call an autograft, meaning it comes off the human of my own skin. So DNA matches. So here on my belly and here on my quads, they would harvest this skin off. And it's like just like a little cheese slicer, and they just take off that top layer of skin and then graft it back in the spots where it looks like the body is ready to be tricked and accept new skin. They staple or stitch it on during that time. The key thing is that if you should decide to be a skin donor, and I hope you will consider it, you can always have an open casket. What I did not know in Micah's case, I thought that's a ritual within my family that we find very healing, to have an open casket funeral. But in harvesting skin from someone who has died suddenly, they of course take nothing from the shoulders above and nothing in the private areas and hands. So an open casket could have certainly been a possibility. And my picture, oh, this is going to be just a bloody, mutilated corpse, that wasn't ever going to be the case, but I didn't know. That's why I feel so compelled, even 2 decades later, to volunteer my time to give this talk to high schools throughout the Kansas City area. I used to do a bunch of them, and now I need to get my butt back in gear and do it again, because I do enjoy the feedback of people saying, I never do a thing about skin donation. I think about the solid 7 organs, and you really taught me about skin, bone, muscle, and ligaments. I was then eventually able to have all that skin take, and as a result of that now, you see me walking and standing without a cane even. And in terms of pain now, it's hardly ever there. I would have to be walking a long ways on cement, not grass or carpeting, before I'd feel it in my right leg. More importantly, though, I've gotten to meet 2 men who saved my life, that's a side story, and CBS surprised me with that. I did not know how that was going to turn out. We had a surprise reunion, which was incredible, and CBS won an Emmy for it. It was called The American Hero. So I would like to wrap up right now my presentation about this is the process of skin donation, and also in honoring Micah to know that we have received letters from every one of the people who received her organs, and she has continued and blessed their life. There was a 62-year-old grandmother whose grandchildren sent us a drawing of her being able to skip rope and jump rope with them again, and connections that we've had there. It's been a life-enhancing experience. Me being nearly burned to death in a car explosion was the best thing that ever happened to me, for me to truly believe that there is so much quality of life, and I want to be one of those people that's considered a giver and not a taker. I wrote a book about it called Burned But Not Broken. The reason for that title is a double entendre. I was burned, but not a single bone was broken. Same thing for Trooper Newton, who I forgot to mention. He did burn to death sitting in the car seat next to me over the course of 3 minutes and 37 seconds. But neither of us had any broken bones. All of our injuries were caused by gasoline-fed fire from that car that is no longer being made because of all the lawsuits against them and all the people that were killed because of a faulty fuel tank. So I'm relieved about that. But I started to say that the other good thing that came from the wreck is the passage of the law that says just move over. And that is because it was only a law in 9 states at the time of my wreck that you're supposed to move over when you see flashing lights on the shoulder, move to the left lane. And if you can't move to the left lane, slow down. If you do not move to the left lane when you see flashing lights on the shoulder, this could be a wrecker, it could be a fire truck, it could be an ambulance, but if you see flashing lights on the shoulder, you cannot continue on your merry way in that lane right next to those flashing lights. That is a ticketable offense and should be. And so as a result of this particular wreck that happened in Missouri, that law was passed by President Bush and signed into law, and I was one of the people that helped to champion that through Capitol Hill with our then U.S. Senator Jim Talent. So a lot of wonderful good things have come from this. There's memorial services every year at the crash site. I continue to take a wreath there on May the 22nd and also one at Christmas time. I'm in contact with one of the 2 men that's still alive that saved my life. His birthday is December 14th, so Dave will be hearing from me again. I was able to give back to them like they gave to me. I'm in the wedding business and they had daughters, so I was able to provide them with weddings as a part of my thank you. And with that point right now, I'm going to hush up my mouth, as they say in the South, and I'd love to just answer questions from you about the process of either Micah's story, my story, the process, organ donation. What questions or fears do you have right now? Because I'm standing here as living proof that it works. And if somebody had not made that donation of skin, tissue, and bone, I would have no legs. You can yell it out. I'll repeat the question for you.
Have you seen or talked to Paul, the person who hit you guys?
The man who hit me? Yes, Paul Daniels, I did. It was very important to me to get to know him. I needed to know what made him tick. And I was in kind of sequestered for 2 years until the first lawsuit against Ford Motor Company came out, and I was not allowed to read any newspapers, talk to anybody connected with the wreck in any way. I would be on the stand one day at the Jackson County Courthouse that would, in my testimony, to do what they called pristine. After that trial happened and I lost, I was then able to go do anything I wanted to do, and a part of it was to go meet him. And I did go to meet him. He lived up near Maysville, Missouri. And that was another life-enhancing experience in my life. And what I asked for would be just an hour of his time and stayed for. And at the conclusion of that visit, I offered him my full and none-of-action forgiveness and told him to go forth with this experience behind us and let's do good stuff with our lives together. But yes, I have met him. Yes, sir.
What was one of the processes you wish you didn't have to go through?
I'm sorry?
What was one of the processes you wish you didn't have to go through?
One of the processes I wish you didn't have to go through? By far, debridement. Debridement is when you're conscious for debridement. Now, granted, and how that process works is I'm sitting on a little metal bench, almost like a shower bench, in what looks like a kiddie wading pool, and they have little pipes of water that flood down from my face down because there's blood just oozing out of my scalp and my face all the way down into little bits of tissue. And at the end of the 2-hour process, this wading pool was filled with my blood and bits of my skin. And even though there was an IV full throttle in both arms, the pain was off the chart. And now that I've survived debridement 121 times, literally there's nothing that I couldn't survive now. It was horrific. Next question. Yes, ma'am. What did I tell myself?
During that time.
What did I tell myself during the recovery from the accident? Yeah. You're never supposed to evaluate questions when you're the speaker, but that's a very good question. What did I tell myself during the time of recovery? As you can see, I came out at the end of the summer, and by fall, my family was back into school. My wife was going to work, and she was kind of managing the bridal store for me. She took a break from nursing for a while to do that, and I was alone at home. And my clinical depression was, Grand Canyon depression, in spite of therapy, in spite of antidepressant. And there was a single morning in which I decided I had two choices. I was either going to stay bitter or get better. And I made a choice to get better. And I had to, how was I going to craft getting better? Is that I decided the best thing I could do to not think about myself was to think about someone else. And so I decided that I was going to do 2 gestures of kindness a day. One for somebody outside of my family and one for something inside my family. And there was a lady, one of my teachers, my girls' teachers at Scion, who I know was having chemotherapy. And I called Mrs. Craig and I just said, this is Michael Nolte, you don't have to answer your back. I know you're having chemo today. I'm kind of a Catholic guy who prays the rosary. I'm going to say some prayers for you today. I just want you to know I'm thinking of you. The second thing I did for my family was I looked at the toaster where the kids had gone off and left it with peanut butter and crumbs and jelly all over it, cooked on it. And I thought, I could clean that damn toaster. And I rolled in my wheelchair, and I put a bath towel on my lap, and this was my one good hand, and I got some soft scrub, and I rubbed on that toaster. It took me 2 hours, but I cleaned the toaster. The toaster became an important part of my recovery story, and then when we did, we had a big party to thank a lot of people who have been so kind to us after 2 years. And the party favors were that story about how I made that switch to not be bitter, but rather to get better. And there were little toaster ornaments on stands and a little book with the story on it. And the cake lady who does all my wedding cakes made a great big cake in the shape of that exact toaster. I oftentimes take the toaster with me to speaking engagements now. I would never throw it away. Next question. But that's what I told myself. So the byline of the book, Burned But Not Broken, is for what was I spared? I never asked, why did this happen to me? There's all kinds of horrible things that happen to other people that don't deserve them at all. I didn't say why this happened to me. I said, why was I spared? Why did this man who had the same initials, Michael Newton, Michael Nolte, 25, 47, family man, married, how was it that he burned to death and I was pulled out with 15 seconds? For what was I spared? I have to believe that the reason partly that I was spared is that on November the 8th, I would be here at the Rose Auditorium speaking to you at Rockhurst High School.
How long was the full recovery process?
The full recovery? Well, I would identify full recovery when I could wear lace-up shoes again, and that I didn't need special orthotics. And they also have a process for burn victims that they have to have compression, meaning that if you've ever seen a burn victim, that their skin is all ropey, like grapevines on there, that's because they were not physician compliant and they didn't wear their compression garment. I had a compression garment on this hand, it smushed this hand. I had like these ski tights that came up to here that were so tight, they were custom made, and they would measure the circumference of my thigh here, all the way around, and then I swear they made about half that size. And I have to put these on to hold down that healing, grafted skin, and it hurt horribly. And I had to wear the compression tights for 2 years. So I think I would think of my healing over that 2-year process. In 2 years, I didn't have to wear compression tights. I didn't have to wear special shoes any longer. So it was a full 2 years before I came back and pulled the slide.
Sadly, we only have time for one more question.
Okay.
One more question.
Next question. Come on, guys. Don't be afraid. Yes, sir.
We have a number of students here, and they're going to be going back to their high schools, and some of them are, going to be talking with their friends, and some of them making choices. Now, what would you say to them about just making a decision, being an organ donor, and how beneficial it can be to them and their friends' lives?
Again, the point is we cannot be here to convince you to become organ donors, but let me share with you from the perspective of my sister and brother-in-law and her siblings. It gives them great comfort to know that as tragic as their daughter's death was, she's enhanced the lives of 7 other people that are still living 21 years longer and are having a fullness of life that they never would have had if they had not received that organ. So I'm a big, big advocate. I talk about it all the time. It's in all my wishes. There's even floats in the Rose Bowl Parade. I'm a big parade junkie. And at the Rose Bowl Parade, there's a Donate Life float that will have medallions of various donors and members of their family who walk along the float as well. So I feel there's kind of a byline we use in our industry is, heaven knows we don't need your organs. We need your organs here on earth. And the fact that it's done in a medical setting and a procedure is nothing different than a surgery and how they retrieve the organs and they quickly then transplant them into somebody whose life turns immediately for the better. It's extremely peace-giving to the family. Is that it?
Ladies and gentlemen, one more time, give that round of applause for the incredible Mike